What's going on? It's your boy AG Stacking coming at you with the video on vintage poured silver. This is something that I am not too familiar with as far as prices. I do my research. I look up the stuff on eBay, Instagram, and Facebook, Reddit if I get a chance. But it's something that I try to stay away because I don't know exactly what stuff goes for, and I see the premium on vintage stuff is ridiculous sometimes, and I'm like wondering, is it even worth it? But then you look at sale and sold prices and sales posts that are up, and you have prices that are even higher than what you were thinking of paying. But this is stuff that I enjoy collecting, and the reason why I have it is because I like it, and I paid a little bit of a premium for it, but not as much as some other people are paying. That's a good thing about coming across lots and buying a little bit more than others, is because you come across stuff like this for a decent price. Vintage poured silver is just awesome to hold. The ingots are just chunky little guys that this is a 24 1/4 ounce bar that you can just hold in one hand. I mean, you can throw this thing at somebody and knock them out, and then go get your silver back, and it's still silver. Like this guy here is a 10 lane bar from the 1800s. I think that's what it's called. 50 ounce Engelhard. I mean, these things are just chunky, and they're just awesome to hold. This is a recent pickup, but for a brand new stacker getting into silver and trying to start buying stuff like this, I would recommend you try to learn a little more about the value, about the silver, and what you're paying over per ounce, over spot, because some of this stuff can get really ridiculous. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like, if you're a new stacker and you're trying to buy a 5 ounce bar and you're going to pay $100 an ounce, you can get a whole bunch of silver. You can get it close to a kilo for that money right now with spot. But vintage stuff, I think it's worth it. I think, and I've seen it hold its value. I've seen people selling it when it was $20 an ounce. They're selling like for example, a Bull Engelhard bar. When it was $20 an ounce, they were selling for like $220, $240. And when it was $15 an ounce, they were selling for the same thing, $220, $240. So they hold their value, from what I've experienced, from what I've seen. So I stack things, and I keep things in my stack that I know, okay, I've seen that at this price when silver was hitting this, this much, and I've seen it sell at this much for, when it was lower, and it's maybe $5 to $10, $15 apart when, silver is significantly lower. You got to remember, when it comes to precious metals, cents make a big difference. People are fighting over, who can sell it for 10 cents, 15 cents cheaper. It makes a difference to these guys and gals. So when it comes to vintage port stuff, it's expensive per ounce, but it's something cool to have, something cool to hold. You're holding history in your hands. Some of these mints do not exist. Some of these refineries do not exist anymore. They went out of business. They sold their business. Some of them did illegal stuff, and you got that history in your hand, and you're paying for that. The history behind a bar, adds value to that piece of silver. Just like art bars, and people don't want to pay the premiums on them because they think they're too much. It's just the work and the art that's being put into it is what you're really paying for. So with this stuff, you're paying for the history, you're paying for the weight, you're paying for how old it is, and it's cool stuff to hold. I mean, these 3 bars here are made by the Phoenix Precious Metal Refinery, and or Phoenix Precious Metals, just Ltd. And this is a 5 ounce bar. It has a double stamp here on the 0. It's the same exact bar, but it's clean. The 5.0 is good. They look almost exactly the same. And then you have a third one here. I recently picked up 5 of them, but this guy is round. Round around the edges. It's just different. You can look at it. It's completely different. A little thinner, but they all weigh the same. They all weigh 5 ounces. They're all made by Phoenix Precious Metals, and it's just something like that is just cool because you have, you know, different bars from the same refinery, but you know they all weigh the same. It's just like you won't find this kind of stuff unless you're buying poured silver from, you know, guys from the community. But when you're buying stuff like this, you have to know what you're doing. You know, you got guys that are on Instagram, like Mooney Metals, Naga Metals, Boolean Freak. I got it here. Only Engelhard for me and Mineral Exchange. Those are 5 guys that I follow and that I notice that they consistently bring out poured silver, poured gold to the public. They're out there pushing it. They're out there. That's what they pretty much predominantly sell is the vintage. That's just what they do is a vintage poured silver, and that's what I've noticed that, you know, these guys are full of information. And I'm sure if you had a question, I've done it with a couple of those guys where I've had questions and they've answered and they've told me the value of a certain bar, and I go to a few of them and ask them, hey, how much do you think this bar is worth? And I get a different price from every single guy, but you from having that, they might be $20, $30 off from each other, but at least you'll have a medium price of what something is going for from guys who are consistently doing this on a daily basis. You know, this is their expertise. You know, this is what they do. So if you're gonna get into this kind of market, you know, find guys that are doing it and have been doing it for a long time. You know, follow them, study them, ask questions, because if you don't know what you're doing, you could end up getting, you know, just paying a ridiculous amount for a bar that you should have paid $20 an ounce, and you're paying $50 an ounce or $30 an ounce. So if you're getting into poured silver, I suggest you do a lot of research. You hit up some of these guys who are very knowledgeable in this kind of stuff, and you just, you know, buy something that you think you're going to make your money back in the future. You know, this is stuff that I hold because I know that seeing the prices at, you know, different levels of the spot market, you know, the silver market, they have reached, you know, a certain amount of money. And I think what I paid, I know I'm going to be able to get my money back, if not make a little more on them. So this is just a brief little video on vintage port stuff. But again, I'm not very familiar with this stuff as you know, as much as I would want to. It's just there's a lot of knowledge to know and learn from the vintage poured market. It's a pretty big market, but at the same time it's small because it costs a lot of money and not everybody's willing to pay for it. But again, if you're gonna get into this stuff, make sure that you're doing your research and you're asking all the questions, because it can get expensive. Let me know. Do you stack poured silver? Do you keep some of this stuff, the vintage poured silver, in your stack? Is it something that interests you? Is it too much of a premium for you to pay? Do you think it's even worth it? Do you think you can make your money back out of it for the premiums that you're paying? You know, I think so. The reason why I have it in my stack, I don't hate on it. I love it, especially if I can get it cheaper than what they are going for. So I'm gonna keep stacking the vintage poured stuff whenever I can get it cheap, and it's gonna stay in the stack, baby. That's just me. So hopefully you guys are doing the same, and let me know what you guys are doing with the vintage poured stuff. Are you staying away or are you enjoying it, baby? Y'all have a good one. Thanks for watching.